Good evening. I'd like to call our meeting to order, and we'll stand and do Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Good evening. Have the clerk please call the roll.
Supervisor Fountain?
Here.
Treasurer Horning?
Here.
Clerk Chopu? Here. Trustee Collier? Here. Trustee Germain?
Here.
Trustee Harper?
Here.
Trustee Petrucci?
Here. Thank you. Item number 4 is approval of our meeting agenda.
So moved. Second.
Motion by Trustee Kalani, second by Treasurer Horning. Is there any discussion?
If I may, Mr. Supervisor, just to clarify that we moved, or we added one item to the consent agenda for the gaming resolution, and then we moved the wireless tower from information up to pending new business 9B.
Okay. Does everybody have the same agenda? Okay. Any other discussion? Being none, all those in favor say aye. Aye. Those opposed, nay. Motion carries. Item number 5 is call to the public. Anybody call to the public this evening? Good evening, Dwight.
Just want to let everybody know that we now have the ladies auxiliary for the American Legion Post for 15. Right?
We do, and I'm the historian.
Yes. And we had a good parade. Heard a lot of reports that people really, really enjoyed it.
Thank you. And thanks for all your effort putting that women's auxiliary together. I know you spearheaded that, and congratulations. Anybody else that call to the public? Being none, we'll move on to item number 6 is a consent agenda.
So move. Support.
Motion by Trustee Petrucci, second by Trustee Harper. Any discussion? Being none, all those in favor say aye. Aye. Those opposed, nay. Motion carries. Item number 7A is site application number 528, Woods Edge. This is a final site plan condominium. Good evening. If you'd like to come forward, please, and please state your names for us.
Thank you, Mr. Supervisor. David LeClaire with Livingston Engineering.
Steve Bellinger with SBW Properties.
Tom Tecco, partner at SBW Properties.
Thank you, and good evening. This is part of a planned development process. They're asking this evening for a final site, preliminary site condominium approval, and then it goes back for all the detail work. Trustee Kalani, as the planning commissioner, would you like to state anything or anything that came through at the last meeting?
Last meeting of the planning commission unanimously approved this final site plan, and there were some conditions that were part of the approval process. One of them, I think, we were needed to finalize some details with regard to the condominium documents. I believe you had your attorney present at that time, and I assume that Mike Homier from the township has looked at all those, and those have all been.
Yeah, he sent back a red line document, and we accepted all the changes and got those back.
This is the second time this matter has come before us. It is property that is sewered, comes off Maxville Lake Road. There is a temporary access. I think the fire department or fire marshal has approved all the aspects of the site, and I would support the motion to approve the final site plan.
Yeah, and according to Dave's language, it's preliminary site condo plan.
Is it final? I thought
It should be final.
Final.
Final, I'm sorry.
Or does it, under subject, it says final site condominium
Right.
plan.
Should be final.
It is final.
So let me.
Was that a motion?
Let me read the motion. My computer finally came up, just so you know. All right, here, print out. Move to approve final site condominium plan for Woods Edge, site plan number 528, conditional upon the following. The applicant addressing all outstanding items noted in the review letters of the Planning Department, Fire Marshal, DPW, and Township Engineer in the construction plans and/or stamping sets. And the applicant submitting revised condominium documents for administrative review and approval from both the Township Attorney and the Planning Department prior to submittal of the construction plans. And 3, any additional conditions. I don't think we had any additional conditions. I don't recall.
Support. Motion by trustee Kalani, second by trustee Petrucci. Do you gentlemen have any comments before we take a vote? No. Any other comments from the board? Being none, all those in favor say aye. Aye. Those opposed, nay. Motion carries. Thank you.
Very much.
Item number 7B is a special event permit application number 264, Hartland Area Chamber of Commerce Carnival, July 9 through 12.
Hello.
Good evening.
Jana Warford, Hartland Chamber.
Sounds like all the information is ready to go, and there's a recommended approval from all the parties involved, from the fire department to planning and zoning and DPW.
I'll move to approve special event permit application 264 for the 3rd annual Hartland Area Chamber of Commerce Carnival, subject to the conditions noted in the Planning Department's review letter dated May 27th of 2015.
Support.
Motion by Treasurer Horning, second by Trustee Harper. Any discussion? Being none, all those in favor say aye. Aye. Those opposed, nay. Motion carries. Good luck.
Thanks.
Item number 8 is a public hearing. Lake Tyrone Revised Project Plan and Acceptance Resolution. We have with us this evening Brian Jonker. Wherever Brian, there's Brian.
Do we need to open the public hearing, make a motion? It's open.
They are on. Sorry for those that are at home that just got blown out of their couch. Well, there's 2 parts to tonight's public hearing. One is there's a resolution confirming the special assessment role. And Brian, I'll try to kind of go through what we talked about and kind of where I understand where this project is at. The project has been approved by DEQ. It was approved a month ago or so. This project's been going on since 2007. And tonight's meeting from the entity of our township board is to approve this special assessment role for a project that's already been approved through the DEQ that has the potential, or will get the funding through the state revolving fund. That's where I understand what our role is here this evening, not to necessarily have discussion about the program that's already in place. However, we do have Brian here this evening, and if there are questions or if the board has specific questions as to what we're here for this evening, but it's my understanding is that from the township's perspective that our role tonight is to approve a resolution that's required and requested by the state of Michigan for us to acknowledge the project that they've approved, so we can go through and get the special state revolving fund money through them. If it were to be delayed, that would not be available. The time is of the essence. They extended the special state revolving fund that was supposed to close, I believe, in June, but they did extend that through October of this year, knowing that this project was going forward. Is that a fair assessment? So at this point, I'd make a motion to open up to the public hearing.
Support.
Second.
I'll make that motion, I should say.
Motion by Trustee Kalani, second by Treasurer Horning. Is there a roll call on that, or is it just regular motion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Those opposed, nay. Motion carries. We now are in open meeting where you can, if you want to raise your hand, if you could come up to the the podium, state your name and your address for us. And if somebody's already made a statement, because there's a lot of people here that might want to have something to say, if somebody's already said it, maybe we can try to maybe have a spokesperson or something to that effect. And then specific questions, as Brian is the drain commissioner and he's the director of the county public works. It's their entity that's did all the design work, did all the background work, got the permit through the DEQ, and again, that entity is the regional sewer district that will putting the project together, the scope of the project, and at the end of the day, they're in charge of running that regional sewer district, not the township. Is that fair again?
I think it's fair.
Okay. So, if you would like to make a public comment? Yes, sir. Good evening.
Hi. Lynn Meisner, 5744 Bullard Road. I have a couple questions. I understand, you're going to approve the roll. I think the amount is outrageous. I don't think the property values would really sustain such a large assessment, but I understand what's happening with the project, the funding, and so forth. I have a couple questions. I talked to Brian today, and I also talked to the DEQ about the possibility of the SRF funding being extended to a 30-year assessment. They said it's not possible. So that kind of squelched that question, which would have helped a little bit spreading the amount over 30 years, but the project won't allow that. And if we went to rural home development, my understanding is it would be an increased interest rate. So I did see a couple errors in the roll that in on names, not properties, specifically property numbers. So I don't know if that matters, but I know two of my neighbors have sold their homes. They've been sold for over a year, and the names are not changed on the roll. So you might want to look at those. I can give you those numbers if you'd like.
That happens, though, when the deed actually comes to the township.
Yeah, but it's been over a year. Since those properties have sold.
Yeah, that'd be great.
So,
Yeah.
The other thing that I'm concerned about is the property where the septic system sits right now. What's going to happen with that property? My understanding is it could go back to the Lake Association for them to do with as the association deems. I have a problem. I think that the district owns the property. The people who were in the district paid for the purchase of that property, and that the property should, in my opinion, should be sold by the drain board and the funds given to the district to decrease the assessment for what that's worth. I'd like to know what interest rate the final roll is going to have.
I believe it's 2.5. Was it 2.8? What was it, Brian?
2.884.
2.884. Yes.
2.884. What portion over the 2% is the township's portion, and what portion is the Drain Commission's portion?
So,
Because the 2% obviously is the SRF.
the SRF is 2.5%, and then you would add a percent to that for the 3.5%.
But you said it was 2.88.
Yeah, so the portion for the construction is at that rate, and then the portion for the RU, the connection fee, and some other ancillary costs that the townships bore, we're charging 2% for that. So when you blend them on a weighted proportion, you end up with a 2.884%.
As opposed to 3 point.
Because the roll that you have in your packet, Exhibit A, shows just 2% and it's spread over that amount. Unless I missed one of the packet, one of the exhibits.
Okay. I'll take a look.
So to me, that's just a little deceiving because it really, if you put the 2.88% in there, obviously the amateur.
Where are you looking at? I'm not,
On the packet that you guys have,
for tonight's meeting? And what page is that?
9AB.
On page 177, it says 2.84.
Okay, that's for SAD, the 200. That's not for this SAD.
Okay, which,
That SAD is not being funded through SRF.
okay.
It's page
So you
177.
do have one that shows 2.88?
Yeah.
I must have missed it.
It's item 8B, and it says packet, page 177, item number 4.
Well, just for the benefit, that interest rate was not confirmed until Monday. So if you had looked at the packet over the weekend, it would have been blank.
Okay.
And we got the number finalized on Monday and filled it in.
Okay, so 2.88. What's the total amount then that's going to be amortized?
That number also went down, went down to $12, I think it was. Let me pull it up here.
Is
there a way you can bring it up on-
21,
286.
Yeah, it's down to 21,286 was the final number. Because I think you were notified 21,298, I think.
22,267, I think. You mean in a letter that we received?
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't,
It's at 21,286 now.
21,286 at 2.88% interest,
2.884, yeah.
to be exact. Okay, so I just wanted to, so the township's being fairly fair in the amount that you're charging for interest over and above what the loan is.
Interest that we're charging 2% is consistent with what we've done with a couple of other subdivisions who have bought RUs on SAD after the fact.
And is Tyrone Township doing the same thing?
They are doing exactly as we are.
Okay. What is the repayment schedule for the state?
It's a 20-year.
No, I mean, are you paying bond payments twice a year?
You pay one
One
payment
bond,
and then one
one
interest
interest.
payment.
One principal and one interest payment a
yeah.
year? Okay. So the first year, you're not charging us any interest? Is that correct? Or are you?
The assessment's being charged the percent from the beginning. It would not charge until, when would the first interest accrue?
Yeah, I don't know what it states, I haven't read about that, but usually they state you have a payoff date, a deadline for payoff with no interest, and I didn't see that
Yeah.
in here. Brian, do you know if that's in there?
It would be on our,
Yeah.
In our resolution. Let me see if I can find it.
What are you on, what page are you on, Joe?
We're looking for it.
Yeah, we're looking for it.
It's in the 180s.
Yeah. Payable in 20
It
installments.
says 20 installments,
20.
first due on December 1st of 2015, so I would assume that you would be able to pay it off with no interest until December 1st of 2015.
that's generally how we've...
That's generally how we've done it in the past.
So is the first installment with interest to us?
The
First
first,
installment that we will be paying in December?
at that point, then, it would not have, would it have accrued interest if you were billing it at that time?
Yeah, we didn't, I don't see it in here.
I don't think that's the case.
No.
Yeah.
That's a good question.
Yeah.
Well, let's
We'll have
write
to
that one
check
down
that
and get in.
Sure.
Put a FAQ on
Okay.
the website, maybe?
Well, and to be consistent with our past practice, it would be not to do that. The interest wouldn't start accruing.
If you're not accruing it yet,
Until,
you wouldn't
yes,
charge it.
Correct.
Okay. Brian, I talked to Brian today, and I talked about the quarterly user fee of $207.65 a quarter. Does the township have an enabling agreement, or does the drain board?
Well, the drain board is
You do,
disappearing.
okay. For the user fee. You told me today that there was an enabling agreement about the user fees as far as the increases that can be charged?
No, there's no enabling agreement that speaks to what user fees can be that's set by the township. But there's an enabling agreement that allows for one, the Genesee County to pass their bills on to Livingston County. And Livingston County passes that bill on along with its operation bills to the township. And so there are enabling agreements that allow for that relationship.
For that relationship. Okay, what I'm concerned about is how the township then is going to look at how sewer fees are going to be increased or not increased over the long term.
Well,
Obviously,
we've put
this is
together
quite a large amount.
I mean, we've put together a strategy that started back in 2007, and we have adjusted rates accordingly, and I believe we have one more year, James, on our last schedule, which was a 5-year to get us to where we needed to be. And the sewer rates didn't change here for 20 years.
No.
So
But
with all the other elements.
These obviously are changing, because our quarterly rate has been $126 a quarter.
Right.
Now it's going to be $207.65 a quarter.
And within that rate, I mean, I don't know if we want to go into all the detail, but all that detail is straightforward as to what all the dollars are. If you have a grinder pump, X amount of your bill goes to the grinder pump, X amount of goes toward readiness to serve. There's probably 5 or 6 different breakdowns on that bill. Part of it goes back to because there was no additional special assessment when the new sewer district went in. So depending on what SAD you're in, you might be paying something a little bit different from the standpoint of paying for that quarterly readiness to serve.
I guess where my concern lies is because this is going to be going to the Genesee County drain, right?
Mm-hmm.
How much, is there any control over what they charge us for commodity going into their system?
Ultimately, no. We certainly are, and the county is at the table when that happens. Historically, they only adjust their rates every 5-6 years, is what they've been doing. And we found their rate increases have been underneath what we projected. So far, that's gone okay.
We've done a rate analysis, and that rate analysis is what James is, I think, referring to.
The Genesee County rate.
Well, but it contains the projected rate.
Oh, yes, we project what those rates.
What those are going to be in anticipation of what they're going to charge.
I just don't, since this is new to our system going into the Genesee County drain, I don't want us to get into a situation like, let's say, Detroit in the suburbs on their water deals, where all of a sudden we're getting charged a large increase from Genesee County for user commodities.
Sure.
And shouldn't we have some kind of an agreement with them that it can't exceed a certain amount per year? For instance,
They won't agree.
living per year, or
That was part of the master operating agreement.
Right, it's part of the master operating agreement, but there is no enterprise system that will cap their rates, because it's based on, it's a dynamic type of situation in terms of usage and operations. So there's not going to be, there's no way Detroit will cap their rates as you see, between the suburbs, and I was intricately involved in that for a very long time. Brian knows that. I represented Oakland County, so and the truth is it's an enterprise system, and it's a little bit different in Oakland County because I don't need to get into that detail, but the truth is there's not going to be a cap. There's no way they can agree to a cap. What we can do, though, is under the law, you can't you can't make a profit off of operating a sewer system, and the rates cannot be arbitrary and capricious. So to that extent.
So, noting my concern, I hope that the Township Board is going to keep a close eye on that.
We do.
Because that could get out of control real
I
easily.
totally agree with you in it. So far, I think, and I've known Jeff Wright, I think he does a pretty good job up there, and Brian would probably agree too, but like anything else, we got to keep an eye on.
Right.
Thanks. So.
Right. I guess that's... Oh, the other thing is, are you...
By the way, Lynn, you got 3 minutes.
My 3 minutes left? Is it?
No, go...
Just go, tell me.
No,
if it is.
hopefully you're asking questions others may
You're
have.
answering for...
Go ahead.
Okay, one other thing.
But good questions, by the way. I want to let you know.
Thank you. The other thing that I'm concerned about is whether or not the township is going to disseminate information to people who can't afford this. For instance, senior citizens who are on a low income. There's deferment possibilities. I think you should make that very transparent and send that information out to people. I mean, we're on a fixed income, but we're not, we can't meet, I think the income level is $22,000 something to qualify for a deferment for a senior citizen. But I think the township should be proactive in sending that information out to people. And Deborah Fay from DEQ told me that she was looking at I think there's a couple other programs that might be available to people as well. So I think anything that is available, that you should be proactive in sending that out to people in the district. So with that, I will sit down.
Thank you.
Just for clarification, isn't it true, James, that the rates that Genesee County charges, we don't deal with them directly? They deal directly with the drain board, and then we go to the drain board and ask for mercy when they try to increase our...
The Genesee County's relationship is directly with Livingston County Board of Public Works. Our relationship is directly with Livingston County.
Right.
So
we never have a chance to go to...
I don't know that's the case. We've sat in meetings with Genesee County representatives, and I think we'll continue to have an active ear and voice when necessary in that. We don't... So, but yes, the technical relationships are that way.
I just wanted to make sure that was clear to everybody.
Yes, sir.
My name's Gary Anjeski. I'm at 5957 Mabley Hill Road. I have property there. I just need a couple questions and a clarification. You mentioned earlier we couldn't hear too well of a payoff date before interest, and we're assuming that's December of this year, December 1st. So if we come up with the 21,000 whatever, that's it. Correct? Okay.
And looking at our treasurer.
That's why
she's doing this. So
all right.
You get billed in September, so you have from...
No, December 1st tax bill.
Oh, it's a December tax bill, so
It's
they
on
have
the
till...
December 1st. No, they only have till December 1st. The bill goes to the printer on November 15th.
Got it, okay.
So...
All right. That's good. Then the quarterly rates, when will that begin? The $208 that we just talked about, when does that start? Because the system's going to be started, I guess, in September. I don't know how long it's going to progress before it's in.
That's a question for Brian.
When are you projecting connection?
Probably start up in February or March. That should be system startup. Depends on when the pumps actually get completed in terms of construction, waiting on the pumps, but we anticipate February or March.
So then you would receive a prorated bill in April, at the beginning of April, for those 1 or 2 months.
All right. Now, the assessment, because currently we don't have grinder pumps, and the system that was suggested to us is just going to do exactly what our system does now. So there's different types of assessments that happen. You know, you have maintenance, repair, improvement. This system is just repairing our system. So is the assessment going to be defined as a repair assessment? The reason I'm asking this, because of tax purposes. Depending on the category, it's tax deductible. Repairs, maintenance are tax deductible.
You know, this is a special assessment.
I understand that, but is it special because of repair, maintenance? It's not an improvement, so I don't see why we could not use this as a repair, because that's all they're doing. They aren't giving us anything new.
We're not tax attorneys. You can, I mean, it's the description for the assessment is that it is a sewer improvement, and I'm sure that those are the types of words used in the DEQ plan as well. I mean, there is new pipe being put in and those types of things.
Well, I understand that.
Yeah.
That's totally understood, but usually, it's the example that I've been given is if they put a sidewalk in front of your house, hey, that's an assessment. It's improving your property.
I see.
This isn't doing any improvement. If your sidewalk's cracked and they replace it, you can take that as tax off.
Well, I totally disagree that it's not an improvement to your property, because at this juncture, I mean, you can't expand your home right now. You can't build on your property. You can't do a lot of things unless you have this improvement.
Well, currently, we aren't in any violation of any DEQ, so it's an existing system.
Well,
they're just replacing it.
Well, it's a system. Your system is no longer working. Otherwise, we just leave it, right? But it's obviously got a problem.
Right. Well, we're not here to discuss that.
Well, I know we're not here to get the problem. So
We've been doing this for years.
So my point is just what our manager said. You need to talk to a tax attorney for it. But my point is that it is an improvement to the property, because it is in violation. What you have now is in violation. They haven't issued a violation. They've instructed you to take care of the problem. The DEQ.
All right. Okay. Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else this evening? You're next. Good evening.
Ken Sustick. I have property on the lake. I was sent the letter from the township that I have a vacant parcel, which is true. There's no house on the parcel. I don't use the septic system. And it says that I'll be assessed $0. On the assessment roll, it says I'm being assessed $21,298. I wonder which one is it? Which do I go by?
Again, go ahead, James. What parcel ID, I'm sorry? Or address?
12095 Reed.
He's fourth.
Yeah, he's the fourth one.
Fourth one.
I do show that as vacant. Yeah, I'm not sure what happened there, but it should not be the case for a vacant property. Do you own other parcels or just that one?
Just that one.
Okay. Correct.
So that'll be corrected to 0?
Yes.
Okay. Along in that same line of thought, should I decide to build a house on there, what will it cost to tie into the new sewer? Is it going to be the $21,298, or is it going to be $40,000, or is it going to be?
No, it'll be, vacant lots can voluntarily be a part of the SID if you'd like. If a vacant lot chooses to opt in, and today was the deadline to let us know that, it would lower the assessment for everybody. No pressure. But, otherwise, the portion that is equal to the amount of the cost of construction, which was 12,000 and change, you would have to pay for that plus the RU cost at the then going rate. So if the RU cost goes up over time, you'd have to pay, you're paying at least what that assessment is today, plus whatever inflationary adjustments might be made over time, and you'd have to pay cash at that time. There would be no 20-year assessment to do it. So.
Okay, what I'd like to ask is a 30-day extension on my opportunity to join in the assessment, or not?
The board can consider that if they'd like to do that.
Since there's confusion on the letters and the tax roll.
Well, it's my understanding, if we don't act on this, the time is ticking on the state revolving fund. So I'm going to defer to Brian as to, there's been some suggested changes this evening to the roll. And how much time do you need to have that corrected roll and answer any other questions that may be pertinent this evening? I'm just asking you.
We wouldn't be closing on this until September, I believe. So it's not necessarily an issue for us, but it may be for you and advertising the roll and all the appeal periods. But that doesn't have any more questions for you.
How about if we do it till the end of the week?
Or say 2 weeks.
Or 2 weeks. There's something less than a month. I want to be real cautious that we don't
By the 10th.
meet deadlines and such when it comes to advertising. I know some things have to be between 15 and 30 days and different elements, so...
Should we, is there any way, we should really, I don't think we should make a decision without speaking to bond counsel about this. I don't feel comfortable giving 30 days.
No, we can say 30 days.
For 2 weeks. I would really like to know what the implications would be.
Well, I can, this special assessment process is your privilege. This isn't binding. Now, we've signed the 185 agreement and the amendment with the county. They're going to assess us. We've got a bill to pay. This special assessment process is our way of establishing how that bill gets paid. I don't think if you wanted to extend it a couple of weeks or wait to confirm the roll for a couple of weeks, I don't think I can say confidently you're not interrupting anything. So
Ken would like June 15th give you enough time, you think, to...
Okay, I'll accept that.
Okay. Is that all right with the board?
I have no problem with that.
June
Okay.
15th?
Okay, and can I just have you repeat what you told me about what it would cost later? It was a 12,000 something for the cost.
it's basically what it is. It'd be the amount today plus inflation is your best estimate, and it'd be a cash.
Yeah, there's no 20-year payment plan. You have to pay for it up front or finance it yourself.
It doesn't do any reduction to anybody else's assessment.
Correct.
Or anything. Okay.
At the time, I should clarify for the benefit of everybody, if vacant lots do that, that money will be earmarked for the benefit of the Lake Tyrone improvements. So any that would go towards pumping septics and all the things that go along with it would just be for that. That wouldn't be go into one big pot for everybody else. It would just be to control the rates for that those residents there.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you. Have a gentleman over here.
Mark Luscombe, Lot 44, 5917, Maple Hill. Ask a question to Kathy, the treasurer. I noticed here, like on the last sewer assessment we had, that if we refinanced our house or sold our house, Hartland would not maintain second lien holder status?
That's a common practice with all townships.
I agree it's a common practice, and I know it happens quite a bit. I can see the results for it. But since this really is not really increasing my property value, or also for appraisal purposes for selling the property, if I want to refinance, I don't want to accumulate this additional paying this whole $21,000 off. So can the board take into effect maybe maintaining second lien holder status for the people on the lake?
Yeah, that's not my decision. We don't subordinate right now. We don't take second lien on any property with the sewer. So We allow it to go with the land. We don't make them pay it off at the time of selling, but we don't take a second lien.
Like I refinanced my house last time, I ended up paying the whole thing off, you know.
Well, that's up to your mortgage company. See, that's not
I don't
us.
have any mortgage company that was willing to...
Well, it happens a lot. We do them every day here.
I'd like to
But
at least
that's a board
request the board to maintain second lien holder status, if it's possible.
We can't, and I'll tell you why, because we issue bonds, and we pledge the county's, or the township's full faith and credit, which means that when someone defaults, ultimately, the rest of the county, or the township pays for it. So, we're not going to take second status to a lien holder like a bank, because we have to look out for the entire township to protect townships, the entire township general fund and the taxes of the taxpayers of the township. That's how it works. See, the county Board of Public Works and the county pledges their full faith and credit on the bonds that are being issued. We turn around and we also pledge our full faith. So we're kind of like first in line, and then it's the county. If we could default, we don't pay, the county's still going to pay those bonds. So that's the reason why we can't take a second lien holder status.
You're a second lien holder status on the sewer assessment, aren't you not? Behind the mortgage? I believe you are. You're not first.
Nope, we're taxes.
Taxes?
It's taxes.
Just asking if we could help out the people on the lake. It's easier to refinance without all dealing with all this hassle.
Right. And that's why when you go to refi, they make you pay it off.
Many do.
Yeah.
Thank you. Anybody else this evening?
I wish I could give you better news.
I will note, while we're waiting, we did receive written objections. I did a quick email this afternoon to you. There were a total of 31 written objections received. A number of them had, there was some inconsistencies in the owner of record, and that was mentioned. We'll look that up. And that's all that we could verify at this point. But 13 of them were clear, but the rest of them require further investigation.
Thank you. Anything else this evening from the public? Being none, I'll entertain a motion to close the public. Oops. Yes.
So people weren't aware that I know it was advertised in the paper on April 20th that you had a public hearing, but it was in the paper, and how many people showed up to that exactly?
It's my understanding nobody showed up.
Because we weren't aware of it, except for the paper. I knew it had to go in the paper for the DEQ grant money, but I thought we would have been informed like the last time when the project was in front of our houses and instead of in the rear. So a lot of people, when they heard about the easements and that the sewers were going in the front of our yards, no one knew anything about it, period. It wasn't transparent to us at all. So I wrote a letter on May 10th and asked you people if maybe you would come to our meeting on May 19th, because we had an association meeting, and it seemed to be May 19th was the same night you had your resolution meeting to adopt the second plan. So I just thought it was...
Well, it was our regular meeting.
It was your regular meeting,
which was posted last January.
I totally, but I would have thought at that time, maybe somebody would have said, well, we are resoluting on that project, but no one did. I wrote a letter, I gave it to James, and I just thought that really wasn't being very transparent. We thought the people, and we've really, really tried to investigate it as much of this as we can. We thought we had a viable plan on our property down there. We really did. We were shown we had a viable plan, but the DEQ said, no, Deborah, that wasn't viable. No one told us that it wasn't viable. And actually, the plan that was submitted for 2.1 actually ends up costing a lot more than what was submitted. And she said with daily checks on the wells and all that, it ended up adding more money to the project. So we really, Debbie, we do not have a plan for your site. We only have the plan for regional. And I thought, geez, we fought really hard to see if there was some way that we could use our system, because our system is still not failing, as you say. I know we've done all kinds of testing, but I really feel like the people were left out in the cold. I really do. I feel like we were left in the dark. I feel like we did not get an outside opinion on evaluating our property. We asked that Boss Engineering be hired for that, but what ended up the grant money paying for was just an assessment of our existing system that is there now. So the only second opinion that we've had is really we haven't had any. We wanted a second opinion with another engineer just to investigate. And since we aren't the vehicle for the grant monies, we can't use the grant monies unless we either convince our townships to ask the county to get some grant money just to ease the consciences of the people that we would like to have had an outside, non-biased, maybe the original people who put it in from Aggressive, Doug Coates, Jim Solberg, who put that system in originally, who told all the people that they could do more fields, that we would have gotten that, and we didn't get that. I feel like we were left out in the cold. And the other question I had was about the code, the plumbing code, the 200-foot rule. And maybe, Brian, you can answer that, but the 200-foot code, as far as I understand it, means that you don't have to hook up unless the pipe or the pipeline is brought within 200 feet of your home. Well, we have to pay it because we don't have another alternative. If we would have had an alternative, we wouldn't probably have had to pay for that 3.5-mile run. So I'm just saying that we were kept in the dark. Deborah Foy and I we've talked pretty much every day for the last weeks, and she's clued us in, us, as a community, more than anybody here has clued us in what has been going and transpiring behind. I don't even know how this system that now we've devised, 2/3 of the project is piping to our houses. What we're getting now is less than what we were getting with it going around the front. Now we're going to pipe 5 quadrants, what I understand, to existing piping that is 30 years old. And if you want to go back to 2011, 2007 or whatever, this is what we've been fighting. We were told the infrastructure was in the toilet. We were told that the tanks were leaking. We were told the check valves are broken. We were told, but this is what everybody's agreed to hook up to now. Is these old existing?
Well, I want to. We've been dealing with this issue for a long, long time.
And I agree with that, Bill.
And we have explored numerous different options over the years. And this is the option that Brian and his team got approval for, the DEQ. And our issue this evening is, are we going to go forward with a special assessment role? That, in my personal opinion, that ended on April 20th. And Brian...
Where we weren't...
But, well, at the end of the day, to say that our board hasn't been transparent, all of our meetings are televised, all of our agendas are accessible, and to make a statement that we were trying to pull the rug over somebody's eyes.
Well, when you have a public meeting and no one shows up, excuse me.
We have a lot of those, unfortunately.
Well, I'm here to object. I already took in my letter earlier. I think we're all, most of us, we're objecting to the assessment that we're going to pay $186 a month when you divide it all out, which is the figures, or $189, which is what we were told, when you divide it all up to remove our liquid waste from our house and take it to a pump station at 23rd and Clyde. And I object.
And my opinion is, just if we were to do the project from the beginning, it's going to be a lot more than that. if you were to
Well, the
start over.
grant money's paid for the project, so people haven't paid for that project. Deborah Foy has offered to pay for all kinds of projects, because she had the money. The people have not, we paid for that with our grant money. We haven't had the vehicle to ask for the grant money, because we have to go through the
Again,
township.
this is an issue for the County Board of Public Works, not for this entity.
Okay, I'm done.
Okay, thank you. Anything else this evening? Entertain a motion to close the public hearing.
So moved.
Motion by trustee Harper, second by trustee Jermaine. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Those opposed, nay. Motion carries. There's two parts to the public hearing, and one's the Lake Tyrone Revised Project Plan Acceptance Resolution.
Mr. Supervisor, that's the one that time is of the essence for the SRF funding. This resolution you saw a couple meetings ago. There was irregularity in the first person. That wasn't us. The language correction should, I hope, please the board so that we can adopt that resolution this evening. It's not related to the special assessment.
What page is that on, James?
It's on page 166. I'll move to adopt the resolution for the final project plan for Lake Tyrone wastewater system improvements as presented.
Second.
Motion by trustee Kalani, second by treasurer Horning. Is there any discussion?
Well, I will just make a point. We don't have to do this resolution. It comes through the Board of Public Works. Brian and I talked about this. It's really a resolution for the Board of Public Works. But for some reason, up at DEQ, they've got it in their mind that we have to adopt this as well. We're not the project operator of this project. We're not the owner of the project. It's the county that's the owner of the project. So we'll adopt it because that's what DEQ has instructed Brian on, but I've done enough of these to know that we don't need to do this, but anyway. Can you hear me now?
Okay.
Anyway.
So I have a motion and support. Any other discussion? Have the clerk please call the roll.
Trustee Petrucci?
Yes.
Trustee Harper?
Yes.
Trustee Jermaine?
Yes.
Trustee Collier?
Yes.
Clerk Schofield? Yes. Treasurer Horning?
Yes.
Supervisor Fountain?
Yes. Thank you. And then item number 7B is Lake Tyrone Sewer Resolution confirming the special assessment role.
James, should we strike Mr. Sustick off of that role?
Well, we would want to, I was just going through trying to make some corrections. It's a question if the board would like to vote on that tonight.
We can just table
make
it.
those corrections, but, there was some discussion about delaying the confirmation, so...
So should we move to table and then make the corrections?
Well, if the board wants to confirm the role tonight, we'll get the corrections done tonight. I just need to know what the board prefers.
Lynn Meisner had mentioned in her public statement that she had a couple of them, so I don't know what a couple means.
Those areas with the owner of record is not substantial to whether the special assessment is valid. Those are just for convenience. We endeavor to have those right, and we would correct them given the time, but whether the owner of record is listed correctly is irrelevant. It's the parcel ID number that matters.
But what about Mr. Sustick and the vacant lot?
Yes, and I'm going through, but again, as I go through this, if the board's not inclined to adopt it tonight, I won't take up the time in the meeting to do it. Does the board have a consensus on that?
Our next meeting after this one is at the end of June?
30th.
It's scheduled for June 30th. We do have the CIP discussion yet tonight, and we may be considering doing a special meeting in the interim. You could consider it that time as well. So if we... either way, I think you're okay if you waited to June 30th. Or
I would prefer to wait till we have the corrected information.
Sure.
I would too.
I'll entertain a motion to table.
So moved.
Second.
Motion by trustee Jermaine, second by treasurer Horning. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Those opposed, nay. Motion carries.
Is there consensus on just saying that it's going to be the June 30th meeting, or...
Let's do it the June 30th meeting.
June 30th.
Okay.
If that timeline's acceptable?
Yes.
We gave Mr. Sustick till the 15th.
Got it. That's correct. Okay. 9A, resolution of intent sewer SAD 200. And this is required through Livingston Regional, that there were parcels that were not, they were within 200 feet of a line. We offered them an opportunity to hook up to the system and be part of a special assessment district. Anybody that decided not to do that in the future, if they need to hook up, would have to pay a cash. It would not be a special assessment.
Correct.
So with that, there's somebody else, and there's like 700 pages on this. Does anybody know what page that's on, that resolution?
190.
190.
Thank you. Is there any discussion from the board? If there isn't, I'll entertain a motion for the resolution.
I'll move the resolution of an intent to make sewer improvements, ratification of prior township action, and tentative designation of a special assessment district. Notice of a public hearing. Am I reading the right one?
Support?
No, I don't think.
I don't know if that was the right one.
that is
What page are you on again?
190.
Well, that wasn't necessarily the recommended resolution, but that was the header for the resolution in
Okay.
question. So he's...
So I'll stand.
So my question then, does this action, then we'll have a public hearing on this in the future? That's what we're...
That's right. We will mail notices, put them in the paper for those properties affected.
Correct.
In this case, all property owners have signed a agreement.
Okay.
Which this resolution also authorizes the supervisor to execute those agreements. These are all voluntary SADs.
All right. I have a motion and a support. Any other discussion? Have the clerk please call the roll.
Treasurer Horning?
Yes.
Trustee Germain?
Yes?
Trustee Petrucci?
Yes.
Trustee Harper?
Yes.
Supervisor Fountain?
Yes.
Clerk Schofield? Yes. Trustee Collier?
Yes.
Thank you. And item number 9B is wireless tower proposals. Manager Wickman?
Thank you, Mr. Supervisor. First, if we can talk about the American Tower letter, they have made an offer for a new tower at Heritage Park. I believe it to be a fair offer at today's market rates, and a market improvement from their initial offer. We've talked about this a little bit over the years. We'd like to get an indication from the board, if you have questions or want to discuss it further, whether these terms are acceptable to move forward and that they would draft the agreement. They are looking to move fairly quickly.
I got a couple of questions.
Sure.
One, this is an amendment to the comments?
Yeah, I'm sorry. So this is one of those where the attachments for the American Tower piece were confidential and are, if you'd have to log into the web portal to access it.
Thank you, sir.
So if you're not able to access that, I can read it off real quick.
Where are they planning on putting this?
This is Heritage Park, behind the parking lot at the tree line. The exact location, we haven't firmed up. I mean, obviously, we want it to work with the parking lot and any buildings we want to put out there, but basically in that general area between the northernmost fields at the tree line. We want to coordinate electrical and that kind of thing. It'd be a 175-foot monopole. There'd be a fenced area. Looking for the...
How much space are they looking to pick up?
Yeah, that's what I'm looking for. I guess they didn't designate that. It's, I guess, enough fence space to fit for carrier ground units in there.
The one over at Golden Trailer, where there's a tower, it can't be more than 20 by 20.
Behind the fire hall, too.
It's just a generator and maybe a transformer.
Right. I'm generally supportive for a couple of reasons. One, it will bring power to that. I think they're going to have to bring electricity down, correct? but I'd like to have some idea of the construction of that and how it might affect what we already have built there. And we have a number of fields and drainage all set up, and we got parking lot being planned to be built there. I think it would be helpful to have a little more detail in exactly where it's going to be, how it's going to be set up, and I just...
Yeah, don't they normally, as I recall from my days on the planning commission, they used to bring in and submit a site plan for review.
There is a drawing that's one of those attachments that, and if you're not able to log in, I guess you wouldn't see it, but there is a drawing of a proposed location that's simply a placeholder in the middle. If we have direction that the board, certainly we would be working with them on a location that makes sense. If you have specific direction, we can go back to them with that and make sure that's incorporated into the proposed site plan that would be a part of the agreement.
They're going to need to have access to it in the wintertime?
They would, not that we necessarily have to plow, that I know of.
Well, but yeah, my concern was maybe that's a pretty big area to plow to get access.
A long way.
If we decided to, as a township, not do it, that it would...
Yeah, I'm not aware of it. That would be a part of the agreement language. Those are some of the finer details that we would see in the agreement. I don't recall that the other one with AT&T has that requirement in it. They know that if they got to get there, they got to make their way.
Some communities have been reluctant necessarily to do ground leases as opposed to maybe a license to occupy the space. Because of the license gives you a little more flexibility in moving if we had to move them to somewhere else. This is a proposal for 30 years. I can't even begin to predict what is going to transpire out for 30 years there. So I'm a little bit reluctant to necessarily go with this. You say that time is of the essence. Why?
Well, only in as much as they'd like to get moving on it.
Obviously, I really don't care about them. I want to get it right on our end.
Well, I understand that. I think everything's negotiable. You can do it as a license, but you can expect a lower rate. They're not going to... they invest $200,000 in a tower.
Right. So, I remember when we had a tower right where the middle of the parking lot of where the Myers was. Mm-hmm. And they held the leverage on whether that Myers was going to get located there or not. That's the kind of problem I don't want to necessarily create for a future board or future decisions of the township. I want to make sure we have an idea if this is going to go, because I was, when you brought it to our attention before that there's been some interest, I like the idea because we bring power to that location, which could be very helpful in terms of a lot of things, right? Lighting and so forth that you might need there. Mm-hmm. I don't know. I'll defer to some of what the other board members might think.
It's certainly a question. We don't have to have a tower out there, and we don't have to have $24,000 a year that comes from it with 3% annual increases for 30 years. So it's if you don't want it, that's fine.
I didn't say... You're putting words in my mouth, and I don't like that. I didn't say I didn't want it. I made it very clear I'm interested in it. I just want to be sure exactly what I'm looking at and where it's going to be. It's not a question about the money necessarily, although I like the money too, but it's not a question of the money. It's where it's going to be located. And I don't like...
What entity would you like to have look at that? The Park Site Plan Committee?
I don't know if we need a park site plan committee, but it is affecting the park. But I'd like to get an idea of where they're actually going to put it, and in relation to all the other things we planned for that park. One of the things we have planned for that park is also trails. Now, I'd like to, around the entire park, not a real, like the trails back here, but something that the parents can use eventually. But I'm not trying to, I just don't want to make the wrong decision that later on we regret because we could have had it in a certain location. So
which organization would you like to come up with some of the different proposals that you're asking?
It can go to the Planning Commission. Would have to go to the Planning Commission, wouldn't it?
It would have to go to the Planning Commission and have to come back here. The siting of that tower would be part of the agreement that the board would ultimately approve. You're not approving the agreement tonight. You're letting us know whether or not we're barking up the right tree and what conditions you would, if location is one of them. I never doubted that to begin with. We would be working with them to make sure it's a location that makes sense for everybody. And ultimately, that location would be approved by this board before an agreement's signed, and then it would still go through site plan.
But I think in your preliminary talks, you were talking back by the tree line, not in our open area or any...
And that's based on conversations that have happened here, because the idea of having a wireless tower has been talked about here for years.
Right. And at $24,000 a year, that could help the maintenance costs of that park, and
Certainly.
I think it's a good thing.
The location is definitely a concern.
You know,
Go ahead, Joe.
I happen to agree with Joe Colini on this one. I want to know where it's going to be located.
Right.
Not only from the standpoint of the park, but we got neighbors there too. And I think it's important that we know where this thing's going to be put.
Well, we will. We have to approve it. The planning commission will first, before it ever gets done.
So if we go forward with it tonight, can we still say no to it where it's going to be located?
Absolutely. This is a preliminary meeting. This is the beginning of this. They're interested. If there's consensus to continue forward, an agreement would be drafted, be reviewed by the attorney, be reviewed by the board. There'd be specifics about the location and the electrical and the snowplow. All these things would be ironed out. I'm not delivering you a package with a bow. I'm bringing it to you early on so that we can have these discussions.
So why did we move this up as an action item under pending and new business?
Because the second item is an action item. That's for the Crown Castle amendment to the agreement. I put them both matters together because they're related, and that the terms that are in the Crown Castle amendment for a second tenant are in line with these terms being offered for tenant co-location by American Tower. So if we're off base on one of them, then the other falls out of line. So,
Well, just so I understand what I'm looking at, because I know you added these to the agenda yesterday and reissued the packet. On page 235 is your memo from yesterday saying there would be we've got interest from two parties. Yes? You with me so far?
I got to find that page, but yeah.
It's 235.
And then immediately following that, there is an agreement from 2001 that we're trying to amend. And so the first thing that I'm confused on is if we're talking about a cell tower at a new location, why would we be amending an old agreement from somewhere else?
In order to get...
Same company?
No, it's not. It's not the same
That's
company.
the bottom paragraph.
And in order to get the other attachments, the confidential attachments, you would have had to have been logged into the web portal to see the letter from American Tower and the site plan proposal from American Tower. And so it seems that you don't have that.
Lightning, I don't know. That's where I'm like. Is there a lightning issue with those towers?
Are there any public safety issues here?
I've certainly been tuned into the mobile tower world for a while. I've never heard a concern about that. I mean, they're going to ground them, obviously, and I've never heard of an issue involving that. And the one right now is in the outfield of Springer Ball Diamond. I've never been aware of an issue with that one either.
I haven't either. I was just curious. I was thinking the same thing, putting it right next to a...
From a layman's perspective, if anything, it attracts the lightning away from other structures. Yeah.
The highest object, my understanding, is the highest object takes the strike. Yeah, in the middle of that field, that'd be the highest object.
Well, that's what you're saying. It takes it off of our pavilion or anything else to play with.
It also goes down the tower into the ground. Anything around it is gone.
I don't know. I'm not an expert.
I've never heard of it.
I've never heard of a problem with
Well,
that.
if that was the case, right next to Charlie Tulip's place,
Or the fire department.
they wouldn't put it there.
Won't stand next to it.
Okay, so is there, where do you want to go forward? Is it worth exploring further?
Yes.
So are you asking for us to approve the First Amendment to the ground lease agreement?
Not yet. That's the second action item. The first action item is the proposal for Heritage Park. The amendment you're talking about is for the, behind the fire hall.
So first thing you want to know...
I just want to know if we're on the right path with the terms that are being offered.
Well, I cannot answer that question because I don't have access to the agreement right now.
Joe?
I agree with Matt. I think I'd like to see if he can have me log in, I'll log in and take a look at it. But
This is the disadvantage of adding something at the last minute, the day before a meeting.
Well, it's that it's under confidential.
These two...
I'm trying to figure out why is it confidential? They're coming to us. It's confidential to them. They want to keep it confidential, but we're the public entities here. We need to be able to see when they're putting stuff on public property, where it's going to go, what it's going to look like, and I'm sure they'll come to the Planning Commission, but I don't think we can approve an agreement that's kept confidential. I don't think legally we can do that.
That's not the intent. Okay. And these attachments that we're talking about have been in there since Thursday. I didn't receive any reports that anybody wasn't getting them. Obviously, that's causing more trouble than was ever intended or that it's worth, and so we won't use that function of the software anymore if the board's not able to access it.
Glenn, what are your thoughts?
I would like to see the agreement too, but I don't have access.
All right, Joe?
Dan?
All right, so a motion to table, or we can bring it up after a recess if you want to take a break and everybody log in.
What I'll do is I'll email it. I would hate for us to delay it for that only reason. Those attachments were referred to in the original board packet put out on Thursday, and I'm sorry that I'm only hearing now that you weren't able to access it. I hate to tell the interested party that that's the reason we tabled it in the end, because we could have resolved that issue before sitting here. I'll go ahead and try to get it emailed out to you, and I'll print it off, whatever we need to do if we want to pick it up off the table later.
That's what I'd recommend right now, is we just continue with our regular meeting here, and then we can bring this up after we get through the balance of it.
Would you like a motion to table this?
Table both 9A and B until we have access to the information.
So moved.
Support. Motion by Trustee Germain, second by Trustee Harper. Any other discussion? All those in favor say aye. Aye. Those opposed, nay. Motion carries. Okay. Board reports.
I'm sorry.
If we just table both of them.
Table both of them? Okay.
That was my... Well, I didn't make the motion, but that's what I recommended, that we table both of them. Was that acceptable to you, Matt?
Would you like to take our brief recess now?
Let's get through the board reports.
Okay.
And the manager's report. We'll stay on our agenda. Trustee Harper?
No report.
Trustee Petrucci?
I don't have a report tonight.
Clerk Schofield?
No report.
Treasurer Horning?
As Mr. Sacco talked about, we did start the Ladies Auxiliary. We had a good turnout of about 15. We needed 10 to start it. We had 15 there, and I think we have a membership of about 20. And there's 7 officers needed, and a lot of people stepped up to the plate right away, and our next meeting is on Monday night.
Where and when?
At the fire hall.
Okay. What time?
I believe it's 6:30. Maybe 6. I think, I can't remember. 6.
Dwight wants to have some more people show up. If somebody was interested, could they call you?
They sure can.
Okay.
They can call me if they're interested, and we asked everybody to bring a new member with them, so we're hoping to double.
Okay. Thank you. Trustee Cologne?
No report.
Trustee Germain?
I would like to throw out to the rest of the board whether you see any value in having another meeting of ourselves to try to help talk about the future and things like that prior to our retreat. We had a similar meeting about a month and a half ago, maybe 2 months ago, and it was very productive, but we never really came to a conclusion or concluded our discussion, I don't believe. And plus, Kathy was not able to be there that evening.
Okay.
So I would like to suggest that we try to schedule something like that sometime this summer, before the August retreat.
Okay. Thank you. Anything else, Matt?
No, sir.
Just wanted to thank all those that helped out at the Memorial Day Parade. It was very well attended. I don't know if they ever do attendance guesstimates, but this is as big as when I remember in the last several years. The weather was perfect. And then stopped by the Relay for Life, and they were doing a nice job there as well. So thanks to whoever helped put that together from the township's perspective for Team Hopkins and all the others who spent time there that day before the weather turned. If there's nothing else, I'll turn it over to Manager Wickman for manager's report.
Thank you, Mr. Supervisor. Just a couple of highlights. You do have a hard copy in front of you, the operational report survey. I would appreciate getting those back from you tonight, and as we get set for the summer schedule. I did also want to give a kudos to Colleen and the team that put together the video snippet on the parade. In a matter of 24 hours, that reached 4,000 people, and that was we've gotten a lot of positive feedback about that, and that's perfect for the branding that we all know is true. Did want to call out that the State of the Township event that we talked about previously is on the books for Monday, October 19th at 4 p.m. So if you could please put that in your calendar.
James, is there any reason why it's at 4 o'clock?
Yeah, we talked about it. We want to invite a number of audiences, including the business community, and it's tough to get them, and that's one of those hours that's more ideal for them. That was the main reasoning. We're hoping to have a good representation of the business community in addition to state and county representatives.
They're going to be televised?
We haven't gotten that far in our planning.
I'm concerned about...
Is Bill presenting it, or are you presenting it?
Concerned about the general public who can't get here before 6 o'clock.
I'm sure we could probably make arrangements for that for that content to get out there, yeah. And I think those are all the highlights I had. Any questions, I'm happy to answer.
Being none, we'll take a brief recess, and James, you can send out the information so I can digest it.